Good afternoon, everybody. It's February 18th, 2025. I've got your Tuesday afternoon rush, all of your entertainment news here in one place. It feels like a Friday to me. I'm exhausted. It's probably because I made about 17 videos yesterday. We are waiting to hear Blake Lively's amended complaint. It hasn't come in yet, but by the end of this episode, who knows? It was supposed to be revealed today. But on this episode, we'll talk about Mayor Adams possibly being removed from office by the governor of New York. That would be a big story. Following, I guess, the Justice Department deciding to drop charges against him. Oh, boy. I've also got more info on the Delta crash that happened. The plane turned upside down. Why is the big question. We'll see if we get answers. And I've got exclusive receipts of Justin Baldoni's dad supporting him. Says some nice words. I'll share those. And also more thoughts about Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds at Saturday Night Live. How could you possibly make jokes about your wife being harassed? Would that have happened if it really went down that way? We'll discuss that. And also the Brian is it Cronenberg? Do I have that right? The murder trial that's happening. I'm probably messing his name up, but I'll get into it. There's new DNA evidence. Have you guys been following this trial? I certainly haven't, but we got updates for you on that. All these stories and more, they're coming up next on The Rush. We've got Patrick Mahomes' father in court. He admits to making up a fight with John Rocker in New Orleans, says their dust-up was staged. I guess Patrick Mahomes Sr., who, by the way, was on probation for a DUI, he staged a fight on Bourbon Street with John Rocker. How bizarre is this? The father of the NFL star, Patrick Mahomes, made the admission on February 13th, according to court documents obtained by TMZ. So here's the video of them kind of like going at it. They, again, apparently this was staged because they're going to be participating in a boxing match maybe coming up. Either way, John Rocker is absolutely off his rocker. He's yoked out of his mind. You guys might remember him way back in the day, a whole 25 years ago. He was accused of being a racist. He was pitching, was it for New York? Or no, maybe it was for the Atlanta Braves. And he apologized for comments he made about foreigners and gays. He says, even though it might appear otherwise from what I've said, I am not racist. Well, you know, racist, it's one of those things you don't get to decide if you're one or not, you know? It's like other people will tell you, like if you did something that way, and you can believe in your heart of hearts you're not, but if your actions don't line up with that. I mean, this is what he said. Even though he said, imagine having to take the number 7 train to Shea Stadium looking like you're in Beirut next to some kid with purple hair, next to some queer with AIDS, right next to some dude who got out of jail for the 4th time, right next to some 20-year-old mom with 4 kids. It's depressing. The biggest thing I don't like about New York are the foreigners. You can walk an entire block in Times Square and not hear anybody speaking English. Asians and Koreans and Vietnamese and Indians and Russians and Spanish people and everything up there. How the hell did they get in this country? Well, first of all, not to correct him, but he says Asians and Koreans and Vietnamese and Indians. Those are all Asians, but I digress. Either way, this was 25 years ago. He was since rewarded with a slot on Survivor, and maybe he's a changed man, but I think actions speak louder than words. Really sad, though, if you're like you've signed multi-million-dollar contracts to play baseball, and now you're doing celebrity boxing matches with a famous quarterback's father. I don't know. I mean, hey, do whatever you got to do. As long as you're both agreeing to it, fine. But either way, I guess he had to admit that it was faked. The documents state Mahomes Sr., who was placed on probation last year after pleading guilty to a charge of DWI, 3rd or more, was given permission to travel to watch his son in Louisiana. Oh, that's nice. Look, you give a mouse a cookie. They gave him permission to travel to watch his son in the Super Bowl, and then he got in the squabble, missed a urine test on February 11th, so officials are like, what's going on? The incident was a staged altercation to get publicity for a celebrity boxing match that was set to take place in April of 2025. Mahomes Sr. also ended up taking the urine test on February 12th. All right, well, he made it back the next day, and he came back negative, so good for Mahomes Sr. there. Hey, capitalism is alive and well on Bourbon Street, so I guess in the end, they got publicity for that boxing match. So anyhow, let's go to news that does matter. Here's the official update on the plane incident that happened. Of course, this Delta plane turned upside down, crashed upon landing. Here's what they have to say.
What we can say is the runway was dry and there was no crosswind conditions. We also want to give an update. We can now confirm that 18 injured passengers have been transported to the local area hospitals. We had one additional passenger recently transported to a hospital.
We are very grateful that there was no loss of life and relatively minor injuries. We are very focused on the care and the concern and the passengers and the crew, some of whom have already been reunified with their friends and their families. Others we have in a comfortable place right here at the airport in an environment where they're getting a lot of care and support from my staff.
You know what's crazy? If that flight crash happened in the United States, you'd have to pay for your medical care, but because it happened in Canada, you're going to get it for free. If I'm on that flight, I'm like, my neck kind of hurts, my vision's a little blurry, and I think I got a little pain in my knee. If you guys don't mind checking out, I got toenail foot fungus, and I could probably use a couple extra, you just go for the whole thing. Hey, get your care while you can, while the borders are still open. They're not going to let us in. Everyone's like, you don't like it here, move to Canada. Canadians are like, you can't have us. We're locking up and throwing the key out. All right. So anyway, more on people that were in the plane crash. And not to make light of it, I'm glad it didn't turn out worse. I don't know what went down over there. And by the way, I had a thought, just to go back to the John Rocker story. Everything he said he hates about New York is why I love it. The diversity of culture, character, mixing with people of different generations. You'll have a young mom and an old grandfather all heading to the theater, and all of the beauty of New York that is everything he mentioned he hates about it is what I love about culture and society. So if you don't like New York and you've only visited, I'm telling you, I understand. It's because we send all of the tourists to Times Square so they could all fight over, getting in line at the M&M store. The real culture and value of New York comes from living there an extended period of time. I don't know anyone who's lived there that didn't like it. I know people that visited that didn't like it. And that's, again, you're not going to the right place. So hit me up. I'll tell you where to go. All right, let's go to the survivors of the crash.
Everyone stay in their seatbelts that you could tell. Was everyone hanging upside down? Had anyone slipped out of their seatbelts?
Yeah, I mean, it was mass chaos. I was upside down. The lady next to me was upside down. We kind of let ourselves go and fell to hit the ceiling, which is surreal feeling. And then everybody was just like, get out, get out, get out. We could smell like jet fuel. Even now I smell like jet fuel.
That's what's crazy is the idea that you're covered in jet fuel. I mean, nightmare city. Here's another passenger said they were dangling like bats.
Ding. Last 24 hours for sure. Right when, to be honest, I didn't really notice anything wrong until the moment we hit the ground. Other people were saying they might have. I'm not really sure what, but for me, it was just kind of like the wheels touched down, and then all of a sudden I was in the window seat on the looker's left side, and then all of a sudden I just remember being fully sideways, and I was looking down and just seeing like sparks and flames and whatever was grinding against the ground. And then, it happened pretty dang quick, and we were just upside down hanging from our seatbelts.
Pete, we are so glad you're okay.
Just wild stuff. And, look, I mean, flying is still safer than driving. I mean, the odds of getting into an accident driving are way higher. But, the thing that I hate the most about this is I hate when planes land. I hate it when people clap. Like, get over it. Pretend like you've been there before. But now in today's world, it's like, adios mios, we're alive. You start kissing your passengers. You're, blessing the feet of the flight attendants. You're thanking, and that the weird thing is when you get off the flight and then the pilots are standing there like they want a tip, like you just got to give them a tip on the way out. Like, thanks for not killing me. We appreciate it. I mean, but the truth is it's a wild time out there. And this is a good example of the bias that exists when, there are issues with the FAA. So we're looking at flights and we're wondering like what the hell's going on after that tragedy from last week. But this seems to be a completely different incident where the plane kind of bounced off the runway on a hard landing and maybe subprime conditions. I don't know. I don't have the full story. All right, let's take a quick break. We're going to be back with your update on the ousting of the New York mayor. That coming next. All right, one of the juiciest stories going on in our country is the New York Mayor Eric Adams and what's happening with the Justice Department wanting to not charge him with the crimes that he was being charged with. So if you don't know this story, first of all, Eric Adams is a Democrat mayor. He was a cop turned mayor, and he's accused, he's got 5 separate criminal counts. Now, for those that say, oh, these are political accusations, well, it goes to a grand jury. They bring the stuff to a grand jury, and then the grand jury is the ones that, the people, the constituents, they decide, all right, yeah, I think we should charge him. So it was a 57-page indictment, over $100,000 in luxury travel that he accepted, including hotel stays, lavish meals, all basically by Turkish nationals so that he would then pay some favors off in their direction. He used straw donors to hide sources of the money and at times created fake paper trails that suggested he paid or intended to pay for the gifts. So either way, it's slimy, it's illegal. Why not get that out of office? And also, the fact that he's a Democrat just goes to show, I think, it's not political. It doesn't matter if he's a Democrat or Republican. If you're corrupt, get him out of there. Clean it up. Well, Eric Adams, Trump in the New York story that's stress testing the rule of law. The Guardian reported last week the U.S. Department of Justice moved to drop criminal charges against Eric Adams in what might be seen as a blatant quid pro quo for getting Adams on board as a political ally to Donald Trump administration, seemingly intent on launching a radical remaking of American government. Essentially, Eric Adams met with Trump several times at Mar-a-Lago and other places, and he wanted a pardon, of course. So he's moving in the direction of Trump, essentially kissing his ass so that they'll take care of him. Not only that, he's running for office again. So this is a good example to exercise your ability to critically think and say, regardless of whether you're a Democrat or Republican, we don't need these things in office here. New York has a lot of issues that need to be taken care of, and if someone's proven they're corrupt, you should not have them lead the people. So either way, he resisted the calls to step down. Now we have a situation where the governor of New York could possibly remove him from office, not taking that decision lightly. Here's the clip.
This is unprecedented that a New York state governor would even announce that she's considering this unprecedented move in more than 200 years of history. A governor of New York State has never removed a mayor of New York City from office. She said late last night she's considering that. In fact, she said she's coming to her Manhattan office today to meet with officials to discuss this. She does not take this lightly. She could have said this a week ago when we saw the Department of Justice memo that essentially was saying, hold off, prosecutors, let's drop these charges. Let's wait until after the November election.
And as we saw, those prosecutors, I think 7 of them have resigned and said, basically, Trump, you can find someone to do your bidding, but it's not going to be me, which is interesting because these prosecutors were not political. And again, people in the comment section said, no, everything's political. Okay, sure, if you want it to be. But these prosecutors, some were members of the Federalist Society, conservative organization. Some had clerked for Supreme Court justices. And again, their jobs are not based on whether they get voted in. So for them to say, I'm resigning and not following these orders really shows powerful dissent.
Remember, Mayor Adams is running for re-election coming up in November. But our reporting indicates she knew that was a big step that could set a precedent for a governor removing a mayor of the country's largest city. And she doesn't do that lightly. They've also been allies over the years. And so she's not taking this lightly. Now she's looking at politics. Is it better politics for her to remove him, given this swell amongst Democrats, her own party, calling for him to resign? Or should she stay the course and allow things to play out?
I think she should let the people vote and not remove him from office. I think he should have resigned, but I think the people should decide because it's not like he didn't. I mean, it's pretty damning that the evidence that's stacked against him, any competent person running for mayor should be able to beat him.
I mean, we just learned that tomorrow Adams is required to appear in court in a hearing that Judge Ho, the federal judge of Manhattan, he just said, you've got to come tomorrow at 2 p.m. So the drama continues to unfold.
All right, add it to the docket. More stories we're covering. I know if you're here for the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni stuff, you want to hear that court case. But hey, I think here's one of the genius things I hope that we're doing over here. A little Trojan horse. Sure, you come for some entertainment news, but we're going to share the values that we want to hold up, not just within our community, but within our country and society, which is most judges are doing a damn good job out there. Most judges that were appointed, even if they're appointed from a Democratic president or a Republican president, most of them have really gotten into that position because they've been considered very fair, smart, and educated and all of that. Sure, there'll be issues that happen, but as the president seeks to sow questions of doubt as to the motivations of the judges, I stand by that, hey, you got to trust the judicial system, and if you don't like it, you go to the appeals court. That's how it works, right? All right, let's go into Justin Baldoni. We received, I think we're the only ones, actually, that received insider information from somebody on Facebook. They shared this nice testament about why they believe Justin Baldoni, and then we have Justin Baldoni's dad responding. So these are people from within the Justin Baldoni community. I have known Justin Baldoni since he was 23. We've been what I consider best friends during a lot of the time and even neighbors for a year. I've worked as his assistant on music video sets he's directed multiple times. He even cast me as an extra in a movie he starred in. I've house sat for him, taken care of his dogs, trusted him with mine, driven his car, he's driven my car because he hates my driving, who doesn't, studied religious writings regularly with him, fought with him like a sibling, cried with him over significant shared losses, photographed his wedding, traveled to many places alone and in groups. On his birthdays, I and his other friends celebrated Justin by doing what he loves best, serving the community and feeding the homeless. He is passionate, sensitive, intelligent, funny. Yes, he's funny, caring, and strong-minded. Strong-willed, and he's creative. Boy, is he creative. He's also really fun to be around. When we weren't fighting like siblings, that is, LOL. I say all this to show I know Justin better than most of the people who analyze him and his perceived motives on social media. Let me tell you a little something more. Plain and simple, Justin is one of my favorite humans because of his authenticity and his deep faith in a religion we both share and which drives us both at our core. Justin was also raised by parents whom I adore and who I consider my Los Angeles family. These are good people, people I love, people I trust 100% with my life. I wholeheartedly stand by Justin, my brother, his amazing wife Emily, his sweetest, most supportive of parents Sharon and Sam, and his lovely sister Sarah. Let me be very clear. I do not know details of what everyone wants to know about. I don't need to know. I also don't want to know because I know whatever happened has hurt my friend and his family immensely. I feel it in my heart, and I just know Justin. I pray that the truth comes out fully because that the Justin I actually know and know well is not the Justin some people think he is, and I will die on this hill. Responses from Justin's dad. We love you and so appreciate your support and love. We all know that the truth will prevail. I will go to war and battle for each and every one of you, but I won't have to. We all know all we need is the truth. That was responding to Justin's dad. And then Justin's dad responds, yes, hashtag justice for Justin. So they're there, folks. They are there and they are supporting their son, the parents of Justin Baldoni, that is. So good to see. All right, I got a couple more stories regarding Baldoni. Bethany Frankel speaks out and explains why Blake and Ryan are tripling down. I'll have that next. Always the type to get her word in on the trending news, Bethany Frankel. Remember her? She was in charge of drone talk. Well, now she's commenting on the Blake Ryan scenario. Here's what she has to say.
I do not think that they are trying to play to the court of public opinion. It won't hurt them in their case. It's years after the film was shot. So the judge isn't going to be like, oh, you went out to something within your industry. And the reason that they're going out within their industry is not because they're trying to get you to like them. That's never going to happen. That's a sunk cost. That is already done. You're not turning. You guys don't like them, period. They know that. They're there because that's the core of their industry.
Now, I'll agree and disagree. Sure, they're there to network with industry, but in the end, fans are the ones that buy movie tickets. You are nothing without your fans. So they are going to try to start emerging out there and testing the waters and their likability.
In that room is like being at the Met Gala, the Vanity Fair party. That room is where decisions get made, roles get booked, relevance is sustained. And they want to look at their peers and be like, we're still here. That's just them. That's just the people. Because you guys also dragged Jennifer Lopez to infinity. And what did she do? She looked hot. She got dressed up. She went out. She pushed through. And there are two people that I can think of that you know of that you guys have also gone after hard on here. And I have personally given them the advice, push through. Just push through. There's another actor that said to me that they thought that they were getting canceled, and what do? And I said to them, I told them exactly what to do. So I'm just going to tell you that they went into that room because this week, Ari Emanuel, the one who the Entourage Ari was based after, he's one of the top 5 most powerful people in entertainment. And he stood out and said, I'm Team Blake and Ryan. To them, that says, oh, okay, we're still here. And we're not going anywhere.
All right. I mean, look, yeah. And we'll just have to see how their box offices do. That's all that really matters, right? Ari Emanuel, really a man of the people, just found out he's now a billionaire, capital B. Can you believe that? So that's, I mean, I do like the sort of higher level thinking about Blake and Ryan and what they might be up to, and the idea that they're working deals. But it's like, in the end, who's going to invest in your project if people are worried, if people are going to come out and support it? But you might also say, so what is there, a couple 100,000 people that are obsessed with this case online? Sure. And then are the rest of them, does that even dent? Is that like if a couple 100,000 people want to cancel Blake Lively, is that like throwing a lawn chair off the deck of a cruise ship? Do you even notice if there's multi-million-dollar projects internationally? Maybe. I mean, look, in the end, she didn't murder anybody. Speaking of, let's get into that case. You like that transition? Now, and by all means, with respect, I do think if she lied, that she should admit to it, and there should be some sort of like moral punishment from the audience. Absolutely. I just don't know if there's enough that it's going to affect their livelihood. But again, if Justin Baldoni wins, what will affect their livelihood is a judge saying they got to pay several $100 million. That'll be a lot of Mint Mobile subscriptions. All right, new DNA evidence could see Idaho murder suspect Brian Kohberger walk free. Have you guys been following this case?
New DNA evidence could change everything in the case of the Idaho Four. Brian Kohberger is accused of murdering University of Idaho students Kaylee Goncalves, Madison Mogan, Ethan Chapin, and Zana Knodel back in November 2022. But in a pre-trial hearing, his lawyers have brought to light blood samples from 2 unidentified men at the crime scene. One on a handrail in the victim's home and another on a glove outside. Kohberger's lawyers tried to argue that some evidence collected in the search of the scene should be disqualified because police didn't properly disclose the blood samples at the time of his arrest. But the judge ruled there was still probable cause because Kohberger's DNA had been found on a knife sheath at the scene.
I mean, look, I haven't been following this closely. I thought it was very clear that he was the murderer. But again, I haven't been looking into it. So if he is the murderer, I hate to see him get away with it on some sort of technicality. Let's move it on to something to uplift us. I don't know if you guys know this about me. I love spirituality, creativity, high levels of energy, being the best we can, motivational conversations, all the things that some people hate, right? I love it. And here's a conversation about creativity and how it's the core of human nature and how unused creativity can metastasize into other illness. I just love the topic of stuff like this. So let's end with a nice positive here. I'll share this with you guys.
Unused creativity is not benign.
What is it?
It metastasizes.
The music.
It turns into grief, rage, judgment, sorrow, shame.
Wow.
But we are divine beings and we are by nature creative.
Wow.
And it gets lost along the way. It gets shamed out of us. It gets, I've watched it with my kids.
Unused creativity isn't benign.
No.
It gets metastasized.
It does. It's dangerous.
Now look, the idea that it gets shamed out of us is so true. The idea that kids can play and laugh and have fun and be goofy, and then at some point in time, in some cases, you tell someone to grow up. Oh, my heart breaks for that scenario. Do me a favor, folks. Do it for yourself, not for your kids. Go to Joann Fabric. Go to Michael's. Go to Hobby Lobby if you are okay with their policies. Go to one of those craft stores and walk down the aisles. And if something kind of trips your dopamine and makes you feel good, buy it or get inspired. Like look at the different arts and crafts that you can do and have a play date with your kids or even yourself. You might be surprised what happens. Now, sadly, and I've talked about this all the time, our cell phones. Sure, you're listening to my podcast, you're on the drive home, or you've got this on in the background as you get your chores done. I appreciate your patronage, but we got to put these things down. Because the number one way to sap creativity is to consume somebody else's creativity. You can't consume and create at the same time. So do with that what you will. But if you're out there and if you're feeling any of those negative feelings of stress, anxiety, maybe, just maybe, you need to get out a coloring book. Now, you want to smoke some weed with it, be my guest. I'm not going to stop you there. But do what you need to do. But we all have an artist inside of us that is begging for our attention. That's going to be it from me. We'll be back in the morning. If there's any breaking news stories regarding the amended complaint, we are waiting on the edge of our seat. I'll get those to you when they come out. Otherwise, be kind to yourself. I'll talk to you later. I'm Dave Neal. This is The Rush.